You wake up, your throat hurts, your head is heavy, you're tired in a way that sleep didn't fix. You reach for your phone, search your symptoms, and within 30 seconds you have a diagnosis, a treatment plan, and a next day delivery option for medicine. Now imagine doing that 100,000 years ago. No search bar, no pharmacy, no doctor. Just you, a body that's failing, and a group of 30 people who have no idea what's happening inside you. So what did they actually do? Let's start with what ancient humans were up against. The common cold has existed for at least 200,000 years. Tuberculosis? Older than that. Malaria has been killing humans for 500,000 years. Intestinal parasites were almost universal. Infected wounds from hunting. Broken bones that healed wrong. Teeth that rotted with no way to remove them. If you lived in a hunter-gatherer group, you weren't occasionally sick. You were sick regularly, cyclically, and with no way to know why. And here's what makes this stranger. For most of human history, illness was invisible. You couldn't see bacteria. You couldn't measure a fever. You had no concept of infection. Something was wrong with you, and you had no framework to understand what or why. So humans did what humans always do when they don't understand something. They built a framework anyway. In 2019, researchers analyzed healing practices across 33 modern hunter-gatherer societies on 4 continents. They weren't looking for primitive medicine, they were looking for patterns. And the patterns they found were consistent enough to suggest something remarkable. That the basic logic of how ancient humans treated illness was nearly universal across groups that had never contacted each other on opposite ends of the earth. The first response was always the same: rest and isolation. Not because they understood germ theory, they didn't, but because sick people were dangerous. A group that couldn't move fast enough died. A group that got everyone sick died faster. So when someone fell ill, the instinct, reinforced over thousands of generations, was to slow down, stay close to the fire, and let the body do whatever it was doing. This wasn't compassion. It was survival logic that looked like compassion. But rest alone wasn't the whole strategy. The second response was plants. And this is where it gets genuinely remarkable. In 1960, primatologist Jane Goodall observed chimpanzees in Tanzania doing something unexpected. They were selecting specific leaves, not eating them, chewing them, and swallowing the juice. The leaves came from a plant called Aspilia. Researchers later discovered that Aspilia contains a compound called thiorubrine A, which is toxic to parasites and bacteria. The chimps weren't eating, they were medicating. If our closest relative figured this out, humans had a significant head start. Archaeologists have confirmed it. In Shanidar Cave in Iraq, researchers found a 60,000-year-old Neanderthal burial site surrounded by pollen from 8 different plant species: yarrow, groundsel, ephedra. Every single one of those plants has documented medicinal properties. Ephedra is still used in modern medicine as a bronchodilator. Someone placed those plants deliberately. Someone knew what they were for. By the time anatomically modern humans were spreading across continents, they had accumulated tens of thousands of years of plant knowledge. Which root reduced inflammation? Which bark brought down a fever? Which leaf stopped a wound from festering? Which seed expelled intestinal parasites within days? This wasn't guesswork. It was empirical knowledge built across generations by watching what worked and what killed people. Tested on real bodies, remembered by real people, passed down the only way knowledge could travel then, mouth to ear, generation to generation, for thousands of years without a single word being written. Now let's reconstruct what this actually looked like. You wake up and you can't stand without the world tilting. Your skin is hot. Someone notices before you say anything. In a group that small, nothing goes unobserved. You don't go out with the hunting party. Someone builds the fire higher and positions you close to it. Not because warmth cures illness, because warmth is what the group can give you. Someone leaves camp and comes back with specific plants, not random ones, the ones that person's grandmother taught them, the ones their grandmother's grandmother taught her. A handful of willow bark, which contains salicin, the compound that became aspirin, boiled in water until the liquid darkens. You drink it. Your fever drops slightly. Not because anyone understood why, because it worked and the knowledge that it worked survived. People sit near you, they don't leave you alone. A group member touches your forehead, not to check your temperature with clinical precision, but because touch is what the body understands. You sleep. Someone tends the fire through the night so it doesn't go out. Someone stays awake so nothing approaches the camp while you can't defend yourself. This is what ancient medicine looked like. Not dramatic, not mystical, profoundly, quietly human. But here's the part that surprises most people. The most powerful medicine ancient humans had wasn't a plant, it was each other. In 2006, a study published in Psychological Science tested the effect of social support on physical pain. Participants who held the hand of a trusted person while experiencing pain reported significantly lower pain intensity than those who experienced it alone. The presence of another person, someone trusted, someone safe, physically changed how the body processed pain. Ancient humans didn't know the neuroscience, but they lived it. When someone got sick in a hunter-gatherer group, people gathered. They sat close, they touched, they talked. The group collectively slowed down around the sick person. And this wasn't just emotional support. Touch lowers cortisol. Cortisol suppresses immune function. Lower cortisol means a stronger immune response. The people sitting with the sick person were literally helping their body fight. And then there was the person in the group who understood this more than anyone else. Every hunter-gatherer society ever studied had one. Anthropologists call them shamans, healers, medicine people. The names differ, the role doesn't. One person in the group who had accumulated more plant knowledge, more pattern recognition, more understanding of the body than everyone else. Someone you went to when rest and plants and presence weren't enough. In 2017, a study in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology analyzed 191 plants used by traditional healers across indigenous cultures worldwide. Of those 191 plants, 86% showed measurable pharmacological activity in laboratory testing. These weren't placebos. They weren't ritual objects. They were functional medicine derived from thousands of years of careful observation. The healer didn't just prescribe plants, though. They performed ritual, chanting, physical manipulation of the body. And this mattered more than it might seem. In 2008, researchers at Harvard Medical School ran a study on irritable bowel syndrome. One group received no treatment. One group received placebo pills with no interaction. One group received placebo pills from a warm, engaged, attentive practitioner who listened carefully and expressed genuine care. The third group showed the most significant improvement, not because of the pills, because of the interaction. This is called the placebo effect, but that name undersells it. When you believe you are being treated, your brain releases endorphins, reduces inflammatory markers, and genuinely alters the physiological response to illness. Ancient healers were triggering this mechanism every time they performed a ritual over a sick person. The ceremony wasn't superstition layered over medicine. The ceremony was medicine. Now here's what happened when none of it worked. Ancient humans died from illness, frequently, regularly, children especially. Studies of skeletal remains from hunter-gatherer populations suggest that roughly 40 to 50% of children died before the age of 15, many from infections and disease. A deep cut that would take you 3 days of antibiotics to clear today could kill someone in 2 weeks then. A fever that breaks on its own now could spiral into something fatal without intervention. Death was close in a way that's almost impossible to imagine from where we're standing. But the groups that survived longer weren't necessarily the ones with better plants. They were the ones with better memory. Every death taught something. Every recovery taught something. The groups that encoded that knowledge, passed it to children, built it into cultural practice, accumulated an advantage that compounded over generations. The healer who saved 3 people this year trained someone who saved 5 people the next generation. The knowledge didn't die with the person who held it. It grew. By 10,000 years ago, humans had a pharmacopoeia, not written, not organized into chapters and indexes, but real, stored in the minds of healers who trained the next healer, who trained the next one, for hundreds of generations without interruption. Then agriculture arrived and changed everything again. Farming brought people into dense settlements. Dense settlements meant diseases could spread in ways they never could in mobile groups of 30. Smallpox, typhoid, cholera, These weren't ancient diseases, they were agricultural diseases, born from the conditions farming produced. Too many people, too close together, drinking from the same water, living next to their own waste. The skeletal record is blunt. Early agricultural populations show dramatically higher rates of infectious disease markers than the hunter-gatherers who preceded them. Farming fed more people and made them sicker. The medical knowledge that hunter-gatherers had refined over 300,000 years wasn't built for that world, and so they suffered through centuries of epidemic disease, slowly, painfully rebuilding what they understood about the body in conditions their ancestors never faced. Today, you reach for your phone when your throat hurts. You have antivirals and antibiotics and imaging technology that can see inside your body without cutting it open. You have access to medical knowledge accumulated across the entire span of human civilization, available in seconds on a device you carry in your pocket. And your ancestors built the foundation of all of it, not in labs, not with equipment, with nothing but time, observation, and an unwillingness to let the people they loved die without trying everything they could think of. The first doctor wasn't a person with a degree. It was a person who watched someone die, remembered what they tried, and made sure the next person had a better chance. Someone who paid attention, someone who cared enough to remember, someone who understood, long before science had a name for it, that keeping people alive required more than strength or speed or weapons. It required knowledge. And knowledge, unlike fire or food, doesn't burn out when you're not watching it. It survives.